So I'm going to do some more Bible reading. I have some tea here. I hope I don't start coughing. Okay, so this thing, I think it's 28th, 2nd John. So it's back here. I'm not sure where it is. Okay, so it's 1 John. I think I'm going to turn off that fan because it's just going to blow the pages. Okay, so the 2nd John. Finally. Okay, my dear congregation, I, your pastor, love you in very truth, and I'm not alone. Everyone who knows the truth that has taken up permanent residence in us loves you. Let grace, mercy, and peace be with us in truth and love from God the Father and from Jesus Christ, Son of the Father. I can't tell you how happy I am to learn that many members of your congregation are diligent in living out the truth, exactly as commanded by the Father. But permit me a reminder, friends, and this is not a new commandment, but simply a repetition of our original and basic charter, that we love each other. Love means following His commandments, and His unifying commandment is that you conduct your lives in love. This is the first thing you heard, and nothing has changed. Don't walk out on God. There are a lot of smooth-talking charlatans loose in the world who refuse to believe that Jesus Christ was truly human, a flesh-and-blood human being. Give them their true title, deceiver, Antichrist, and be careful around them so you don't lose out on what we've worked so diligently in together. I want you to get every reward you have coming to you. Anyone who gets so progressive in his thinking that he walks out on the teaching of Christ walks out on God. But whoever stays with the teaching stays faithful to both the Father and the Son. If anyone shows up who doesn't hold to this teaching, don't invite him in and give him the run of the place. That would just give him a platform to perpetuate his evil ways, making you his partner. I have a lot more things to tell you, but I'd rather not use paper and ink. I hope to be there soon in person and have a heart-to-heart talk. That will be far more satisfying to both you and me. Everyone here in your sister congregation sends greetings. Get some more tea. So next is Ezra 5-6. It's back here somewhere. It's before Isaiah? Perhaps not. I guess I should just look in the table of contents, but I don't want to. Where is it? I'm gonna have to go to the beginning. Oh, it's way back there. Okay, so Ezra's after Chronicles. So 5 and 6. Yes, that's like 2 pages. Okay. The building resumed. Help the leaders in the rebuilding. Meanwhile, the prophets Haggai and Zechariah, son of Iddo, were preaching to the Jews in Judah and Jerusalem in the authority of God of Israel, who ruled them. And so Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, son of Josadak, started again, rebuilding the temple of God in Jerusalem. The prophets of God were right there helping them. Tattenai was governor of the land before the Euphrates at this time. Tattenai, Shethar, Bozani, and their associates came to the Israelites and asked, "Who issued you a permit to rebuild this temple and restore it to use?" And we told them the names of the men responsible for this construction work. But God had his eye on the leaders of the Jews, and the work wasn't stopped until a report could reach Darius and an official reply be returned. Tattenai, governor of the land beyond the Euphrates, and Shethar Bozani and his associates, the officials of that land, sent a letter to Darius the king. This is what they wrote to him. To Darius the king, peace and blessing. We want to report to the king that we went to the province of Judah, to the temple of the great God that was being rebuilt with large stones. Timbers are being fitted into the walls. The work is going on with great energy and in good time. We asked the leaders who issued you the permit to rebuild this temple and restore it to use. We also asked for their names, so we could pass them on to you and have a record of the men at the head of this construction work. This is what they told us. We are servants of God, of the heavens and the earth. We are rebuilding the temple that was built a long time ago. A great king of Israel built it, the entire structure, but our ancestors made the God of the heavens really angry, and he turned them over to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, the Chaldean, who knocked this temple down and took the people of Babylon into exile. But when Cyrus became king of Babylon, in his first year, he issued a building permit to rebuild this temple of God. He also gave back the gold and silver vessels of the temple of God that Nebuchadnezzar had charted off and put in the Babylon temple. Cyrus the king removed them from the temple of Babylon and turned them over to Sheshbazzar, the man he had appointed governor. He told them, "Take these vessels and place them in the temple of Jerusalem and rebuild the temple of God in its original site." And Sheshbazzar did it. He laid the foundation of the temple of God in Jerusalem. It has been under construction ever since, but it is not yet finished. So now, if it please the king, look up the records in the royal archives in Babylon and see if it is indeed a fact that Cyrus the king issued an official building permit authorizing the rebuilding of the temple of God in Jerusalem, and then send the king's ruling on this matter to us. So, King Darius ordered a search throughout the records in the archives in Babylon. Eventually, a scroll was turned up in the fortress of Ecbatana over the province of Media, with this writing on it: Memorandum. In his first year as king, Cyrus issued an official decree regarding the temple of God in Jerusalem as follows: the temple where sacrifices are offered is to be rebuilt on new foundations. It is to be 90 feet high and 90 feet wide, with 3 courses of large stones, topped with 1 course of timber. The cost is to be paid from the royal bank. The gold and silver vessels... Hold on. Sorry about that. The bed is really squeaky. The gold and silver vessels from the temple of God that Nebuchadnezzar carried to Babylon are to be returned to the temple at Jerusalem, each to its proper place. Place them in the temple of God. Now listen, Tattenai, governor of the land beyond the Euphrates, Shethar-Bozenai, associates, and all the officials of that land, stay out of their way. Leave the governor and the leaders of the Jews alone, so they can work on that temple of God as they rebuild it. I hereby give official orders on how you are to help the leaders of the Jews in the rebuilding of that temple of God. All construction costs are to be paid to these men from the royal bank out of the taxes coming in from the land of the Euphrates, and pay them on time without delays. Whatever is required of their worship, young bulls, rams, and lambs for whole burnt offerings to God of heaven, and whatever wheat, salt, wine, and anointing oil the priests of Jerusalem request, is to be given to them daily without delay, so that they may make sacrifices to the God of heaven and pray for the life of the king and his sons. I've issued an official decree that anyone who violates this order is to be impaled on a timber torn out of his own house, and the house itself made of a manure pit. And may the God who puts his name on that place wipe out any king or people who dares to defy this decree and destroy the temple of God at Jerusalem. I, Darius, have issued an official decree. Carry it out precisely and promptly. Tattenai, governor of the land across the Euphrates, Shethar-Bozenai, and their associates did it. They carried out the decree of Darius precisely and promptly. The building completed, exuberantly celebrated the dedication. So the leaders of the Jews continued to build. The work went well under the preaching of the prophets Haggai and Zechariah son of Iddo. They completed the rebuilding under orders of God of Israel and authorization by Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes, king of Persia. The temple was completed on the 3rd day of the month of Adar, in the 6th year of the reign of King Darius. And then the Israelites celebrated, priests, Levites, and every last exile exuberantly celebrated the dedication of the temple of God. At the dedication of this temple of God, they sacrificed 100 bulls, 200 rams, and 400 lambs. And as an absolution offering for all Israel, 12 he-goats, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. They placed the priests in their divisions and the Levites in their places for the service of God at Jerusalem, all as written out in the book of Moses. On the 14th day of the 1st month, the exiles celebrated the Passover. All the priests and the Levites had purified themselves, all, no exceptions. They were all ritually clean. The Levites slaughtered the Passover lamb for the exiles, the brother priests, and themselves. Then the Israelites, who had returned from exile, along with everyone who had removed themselves from the defilements of the nation, to join them and seek God, the God of Israel, ate the Passover. With great joy, they celebrated the feast of unraised bread for 7 days. God had plunged them into a sea of joy. He had changed the mind of the king of Assyria to back them in rebuilding the temple of God, the God of Israel. I might stop the video now because someone just came home and they're kind of a loud person who likes to stomp around and slam doors and stuff. Yeah. Psalm 93. Let's see if I can finish this last bit. Sorry if you hear a lot of door slamming. Wait, is it before this? No, yeah. 93. Oh, there it is. Oh yeah, it's really short. Psalm 93. God is king, robed and ruling. God is robed and surging with strength. And yes, the world is firm, immovable. Your throne ever firm, you're eternal. Sea storms are up, God. Sea storms wild and roaring. sea storms with thunderous breakers, stronger than wild sea storms, mightier than sea storm breakers. Mighty God rules from high heaven. What you say goes, it always has. Beauty and holy mark your palace rule. God, to the very end of time. I like using these little teacups. I have a pot of tea, but it's on the side. So yeah, I didn't write anything because it's just easier at the moment. So there it is.